Whoa! What is going on with Cobra Commander's disproportionately thick booty? Howdy, I'm Kurt Williams, and today we're looking at issue 1 of Cobra Commander by Joshua Williamson and Andrea Milana. I did not grow up watching G.I. Joe, so I'm coming into this series totally green. I don't know anything about these characters or the world or any of it. But I love the new Transformers series, and this is the same universe that new series is in. They're calling it the Energon universe. It's this super cool new thing from Image Comics. Now, I've never read anything by Joshua Williamson, but he's written all the high-profile DC stuff like Batman and Superman and Flash. And I've also never read anything by Andrea Milana. I think she's relatively new to the industry. I've only seen a couple other series with her names on them on her Insta or the internet in general. So aside from the colorist that I recognize, Annalisa Leoni, I don't know anything about this creative team. I don't know anything about the stories. It's totally brand new to me. And the overarching plot is pretty cool. We have Cobra Commander coming to Earth and he's on a mission and he kills somebody, of course, because he's the villain. And then we have a flashback sequence to show his origin. And then we see him getting tasked with this new mission that he has. And we also see that he's in possession of a heavily damaged Megatron. And more on that later. So the overall premise is pretty cool. We've got the G.I. Joe universe colliding with the Transformers universe, and I can only assume that they're staying true to the characters because I haven't seen the show. But once you dig deeper into the comic, I don't think it's executing this premise very well. The scene where we meet Cobra Commander is a classic meet the villain scene, but it feels a little bit awkward, a little bit stiff. This whole scene where Cobra Commander gets chewed out by Lord Globulus, or however you say that, felt a little bit silly because when it started, Cobra Commander was supposed to end up dead, but by the end of the scene, he has kind of quested himself to go do this job for Lord Globulus that Lord Globulus didn't ask him to do. So he says, give me a new mission. This is what my new mission should be, but I'm only gonna do the mission if you give me a new title and you let me go to Earth. And I guess I just don't quite understand the power dynamic between Lord Globulus and Cobra Commander here, because I'm pretty sure Globulus is supposed to be in charge, but that is not the way that Cobra Commander handled that situation, as if Globulus is in charge. So then you think, well, maybe he doesn't respect Lord Globulus and he's gonna try to steal the throne from him, but then on the very next page, he says his loyalty is steadfast. So that whole section of dialogue just ended up feeling really weird. And in general, the dialogue isn't very colorful. It feels like it has the same scope as like the beginning of a Star Wars movie where you're seeing this war that's been going on for forever and you've got armies fighting each other and it's all big scale, but nobody gets to have any really great lines because you're looking at a big perspective thing. So maybe that's just set up in the dialogue, will get better as we go, but there was no point where I read dialogue and I thought, oh yeah, that's pretty good. So I'm not crazy about the writing overall. And I'm also not crazy about the art either. Let's just look at these 2 pages for a second. In general, this is one of those art styles that's just scratchy. It looks almost sketchy, like they couldn't commit to just one line, they just kind of sketched it out and saw what would work. Like this is a good example down here. This guy's standing up, there's a lot of lines there that you don't need. Just choose one line and do it right. Another thing that bothers me here is that we've got posters on the wall, but there's nothing on the posters. They're just colored pieces of paper. Really? You couldn't think of anything to put on those posters? Even just a little bit of color to make it look like there's something there? Kinda just lazy world building, honestly. And then there's this panel up top here where Cobra Commander is getting his back smacked by this dumb idiot, and you can see these ripples of action where he gets smacked. And that's a common thing you see in comics, but normally it's much more tastefully done. I think that ripple should be a lot smaller. We should be way more zoomed in on this panel so it doesn't have to be so huge, because it doesn't look like an action ripple. It looks like the dude actually has spikes on his shoulders. I'm really not into this picture of the lady's face. I don't know if the colors could have fixed that, but the shadowing on here is just weird. It's non-committal. I don't like it. I don't know whose idea this was, and I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it looks like there's a blood splatter here on the word man's, but the blood splatter is going the opposite direction from the rest of it, so it's not flying through the air, which makes me think it's on the sign. But how would that much blood get onto a sign that far away? And is this a cute attempt to cross out the word man with blood because a man just died? Because that's kinda, it is not hitting. Ugh, look at this guy's face. That's not finished art. That's a sketch. That drawing isn't done yet. Ugh, and the way they draw Cobra Commander as a scientist here, look at his legs. Look at the freaking lines on his legs, and then the lines on his shoulder, they're so scratchy and sketchy. Just choose a line. Choose a line that has depth. This is so lame and lazy looking. This one is okay because that's a classic trick to show movement. That one is fine. This whole page is pretty boring to look at, honestly, and if we're supposed to be seeing his reflection in his helmet in that middle panel there, you really can't tell. I had to take a second to figure out what that was because that's not the right perspective to be reflecting in a helmet that's that close to him. it's not different enough from the panel before it to make me realize that he's looking in a reflection either. And then of course there's this weird shot where, I don't know, maybe that's supposed to be a pouch or a pocket? I can't tell. It looks like he's just got a really weird butt. And then the panel right next to it I think could be a lot more powerful. I don't love that they're that far zoomed out, and I think the lighting could be more dramatic. But it's not like I hated every single panel in this comic. There are definitely some panels that are pretty cool. Like this double page spread where we find out he's got Megatron. That's a pretty great looking panel. Great depth. Lots of emotion in there. This panel where Lord Galobulus's goons melt out of the shadows, that's pretty cool. I like these few panels where we see them walking through a giant door that's just a bunch of teeth. That's a really cool world building moment, but I don't think we had to spend a whole page seeing a bunch of different angles of this world. And of course this double splash page of Cobra La is pretty cool. I think Cobra La is supposed to be like a reference to Shangri-La, which is a little silly, but okay. And look how happy the people are in Cobra La. They're singing. Look at them all singing together. They're so happy. If I'm right, Cobra La wasn't in the cartoons. I don't think we've ever seen this world that Cobra Commander came from, so this is brand new to this series. And it's kind of a direct ripoff from Oblivion Song, which would make sense because we've got the same colorist doing Oblivion Song that we've got on Cobra Commander. But here we've got Oblivion Song, and there's Cobra La. And the Oblivion Song world definitely looks more like this the farther you get into the series. I just don't have the later books, so I can't show you something that looks almost exactly like this. So, premise is cool, plot is okay, dialogue is okay, art is kind of just getting the job done. It's definitely not as mind-blowing as the new Transformers series is, but you can't really compare everything to Daniel Warren Johnson because he's just on another level. So I'm gonna stick with it. I want to see how the Energon universe progresses, and I want to see these characters interacting with each other when they don't normally get to. But I'm gonna rate issue 1 of Cobra Commander like a 6 out of 10. It's alright, it's setting up some cool stuff, I just don't love the execution. In the next issue we're gonna get to see the Dreadnoks, which doesn't really mean anything to me, but maybe that means something to you. I don't know. So I think it's worth collecting, but it's not my favorite thing ever by far. Did you read it? What did you think?